Hello everyone, welcome to the Data Diva webinar series where we're bringing clarity to your data one training at a time. I am your host, Sherry Curtical. This program is list management. It's all in the details. Perhaps you've recently been to an event and have a list of leads to enter into your CRM. Or maybe you're looking to migrate data from one system to another. How do you ensure your data goes in so you can search, report, and examine with ease? Whether you are currently using a contact management system or are considering, you will find benefits to the information we'll discuss. Today, you're going to learn list templates, standardizing data, multi-pick list delimiters, and phone number extension formatting. So let's get started. Before we begin, let's start with defining some of the terminology. One of the most common acronyms in our space is CRM. It stands for Contact Relationship Management, and it's just that. It's a database that manages the relationships with your contacts. A list is an external batch of information organized by columns, representing the type of information and rows contained in the information itself. So a list is similar to like an Excel spreadsheet. It's a batch of information. Fields are each tiny bit of information that represents a single piece within that list. A module. Now, when we talk about CRMs contain different modules or batching of information, such as a contact module or a company module. These are separated in the system, so you may have several contacts that are related to a company. So modules are linked to each other through a common field or identifier. And the application. Now, a lot of people are very familiar with mobile app. App is a shortened terminology for application. An application is simply a system that does something for you, performs specific tasks. So templates, why do we use a list? Well, have you ever gone to a conference and received an event's attendee list? Have you ever hired an intern to take all those business cards in your desk drawer, pull all that contact information together into a spreadsheet? What about all your LinkedIn contacts? Or the contacts sitting in your phone's address book? At some point, whether you have an existing CRM system or not, you will have the need to put a large amount of external data into your system. This is where creating a list can be helpful, and it saves time. It allows you to manage large sums of external data and ensure it will match your database rules and formats so you can effectively utilize and report upon the information when and how you'll need it in the future. Now that we've determined that a list is both important and will be needed somewhere in the future, let's get you started with a proper list creation template. Unfortunately, there is no one template fits all, but your template should fit you. What do I mean by that? Let's look at an example. Here's a sample snapshot of a CRM's contact information. You will note that there are several standard type fields, name, phone, title, and some information to the right of those field names. Those descriptives to the right are called field properties. They tell us how the data will be populated into the system. Let's look at the difference between field types or field properties. So here's, again, we'll go back to our dictionary and we'll define some of these field terms. Text. Text is just that. It's free-form text. In some cases, it'll be a single line of text and a certain limitation on how many characters. And in other instances, it will be paragraph of text, also defined by a limited number of characters. A pick list. This is a list of choices where the user chooses one. In other words, which state do you reside? You're going to pick one. You don't reside in multiple states. You reside in primarily one. Whereas a multi-pick list is considered a check all that apply. Email address is just that. It's an email address. phone number will contain digits and dashes or symbols, such as phone, mobile, or fax. A Boolean is a checkbox. If it's checked, it's true. If it's not checked, it's false. And a lookup field. This pulls or links information from another field within the database. So this allows you to cross-reference. So why are field types so important? Validation rules will prevent data from wrongly being entered into a system. But in some cases, while importing data from a list, you are forcing data into a system, and the system will enter the information, but will report errors when you try to use that data. Entering correctly formatted data will ensure you are able to use the data while searching, reporting, and making business decisions in the future. Now, field mapping is the important next step in list creation and is done to ensure your data in the list can be matched field by field to the proper place in the CRM. For example, if you are storing first name and last name, you wouldn't want to map a full name from your list into a last name field in your CRM. Your list should mirror the fields in your CRM. This is what I mean by there is no one template for all, and the template will be unique to your system. Now let's look at your list to ensure the data is standardized. What do we mean by standardized? So let's look at some examples. As you can see by this data, it would be difficult to sort or report on the data as it is portrayed here. Some recommendations are to separate name salutations, middle names and/or initials, suffixes, and second parts to street addresses, such as floor number or suite numbers. Where phone numbers are concerned, it makes little difference on whether you prefer dashes or parentheses, but whatever is decided, stick with it. I highly recommend in fields where there are finite values, such as state, if you work domestically, or country, you pre-populate your CRM with a pick list to ensure the data is standardized. The internet offers lists of country codes and state province codes to help you get them loaded and accurate. And we will be placing those in the reference area of our on-demand videos. When importing data that will be inserted into a multi-pick list, it is imperative that you use semicolons and not commas as delimiters. Why? If you run a report and try to filter on industry, shown here, where commas are used as the delimiter, you will end up with 4 concatenated industry types because the system will see each one as a unique industry choice. In other words, it won't be able to differentiate between, on the first row, accounting, administrative services, or advertising. It will see that as accounting and administrative services and advertising as one industry. If you run a report and try to filter on industry where semicolons are used as the delimiter, you will end up with each of your 4 distinct industry types as searchable criteria, as shown here. Let's skip ahead for a moment and pay attention to a warning that applies when importing a multi-pick list batch of information. When importing new information where content already exists in your system, we recommend you export the list, add the information, then re-import the field's information. In this example, the first row represents the data that's originally in your CRM. The second row represents new data that you imported into a multi-pick list, but did not include the original data. As you can see, it was overwritten and LinkedIn no longer appears as a choice. The third row includes the original data as well as the new data because you exported the multi-pick list information, updated the information, and then re-imported it. Now, phone numbers and extensions also have special characteristics. We mentioned earlier that when standardizing your phone numbers, it really doesn't matter how you represent them, just pick a method and stick with it. There are some rules that may not affect you now, but planning for the future is always important in business. My recommendation is to use phone number formats that telephony systems or services can recognize. And this also includes voice activated, such as using Siri on an iPhone. When adding extensions, the same rules apply. Standardize. The recommended method is using a comma to separate a phone number and an extension. Semicolons will work with some systems, but commas work consistently. In fact, if you have multiple prompts, the comma represents a pause until the next connection in the phone system and will automatically dial through to your ultimate destination. So let's recap what we've learned. When importing your data, make sure you create a template from your CRM, ensuring that you are able to map the information in a 1-to-1 ratio from your list to your CRM. Upon import, be sure you map your list fields 1-to-1 with the fields in your CRM. No full names in a last name field. Make sure your data is apples to apples and is formatted in a standardized way. If possible, offer a pick list rather than leaving it to human text error. Always use semicolons for multi-pick lists to ensure the data is delimited and not concatenated. If needing to update a multi-pick list and not replace the data outright, be sure to export the data, including the identifier field, usually an email address, and in your list, populate the multi-pick list field with the correct data, then re-import it to update. And finally, use commas when expressing an extension or string of extension prompts. Now, I look forward to taking your questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the question functionality in your box. And the question is, how difficult is it to get an existing G list to merge with a new list? So when merging lists, my recommendation is that you put all the lists together. You first format your header column to match the fields that are in your database. And then you can grab the information that's in your various lists and you can put them into kind of your master template. And from there, it will allow you to deduplicate based on several different criteria. And in fact, Excel has a great deduplication tool that we'd be happy to show you how to use. And from there, then you can clean up and you can eyeball your information and make sure that all your phone numbers are standardized, all your state abbreviations are standardized, and that type of scenario. Then it's much easier to put clean data in your database and then maintain that clean data. Any other questions? All right. I'd like to thank you for joining us. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to us directly and we'll be happy to help. Holistic Business Solutions will play host to many upcoming events, both live and virtual. For more information, including complete details and registration, visit us at www.holisticbusinesssolutions.com. Thank you and have a wonderful day.